how do you see? There are two types of reality. There's the tangible, which is this current experience that's a combination of your senses, your perception, and your perspective. And there's the intangible, which is this blank space for new realities where you can create it with your mind, in imagination, in dreams, and ideas. Now I want everyone to sort of pause and retrace the origin of your current experience. So the chair you're sitting on, the clothes on your body, and even the building that we're in, you realize that everything was first conceived in an imagination. It was an idea that was created. And so basically, this tangible experience is something that first exists in the intangible and then happens. And so now I want to talk about Exodus. Exodus is a design school for Nigeria where we create new realities for the country through our imagination and use design process and compassion as tools to manifest these realities. We nurture ideas through cycles from imagination to reality in sectors and states. Now, I personally have used this model to create new ideas, but I also want to talk about compassion. Compassion is something that I feel we need to discuss as a country, as a people, and through the cycles, we confront issues on self-compassion, such as purpose, doubt, shame, fear, and external compassion, such as relationships, tribalism, patriotism, and even the environment. Because I think if we cannot first face ourselves, then how do we begin to face the country that we are in? So I broke down the sectors into different categories to aid for a better design approach. So sectors to do with identity, such as culture, media, human development, fabrics such as energy, housing, and health, and scales such as agriculture, where you zoom out, manufacturing and technology, and experience such as disability, gender, and just the human experience. I personally have also used this model, like I said before, to develop ideas, and I first started with the scale category. So in the scale category, I picked resources sector, and through that, I learned that clay was this very interesting material that has been used by our ancestors and seemed to be forgotten. So I found that it was this energy-efficient material. It was very fire and wind protective and resistant. It's a soundproof material as well as like an anti-moisture material. And so I investigated it further and zoomed in a bit more into its molecular structure, where I found that there were two components to it. So there's a tetrahedron module, which is this, and there's the octahedron modules, which is this. And so from there, I learned that I could actually create a wall in clay if I just mimic its actual molecular structure. And so I started sort of playing around with populations and sort of came up with a clay or a module that mimicked its structure and actually kind of start getting a wall from here. And then kind of went a step further to just work around creating an actual clay module. So essentially, instead of using cement, perhaps we could begin to think about using clay. The next sector that I chose based on the experience category was the trade and commerce. So I have been very passionate actually about the markets, and I actually go there with my mom all the time because that's the cheapest things you can find, you get in the markets. And so I designed a V-stall which improves the experience of the informal markets from a micro to a macro scale. So I then went to the markets actually, again, based on this model, and identified issues that I wanted to improve, such as shelter, seating, just a general clutter and scalability, and then came up with a triangular design store that housed everything that a vendor needed, from a display to seating to storage, and because of its form could easily be populated. So you see a radial pattern, and then there's options for linear aggregation such as these. I then took it a step further and took it to the markets because I wanted to test that idea in full scale, and then had it be tested for feedback and refinement, because I wanted to see how it worked in that actual context, and I wanted this fruit seller, to tell me what she felt about it. And so after that, I refined the idea a little bit more and then took it again to the markets for a final implementation. Yes. One of my favorite architects says, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. And Exodus is Exodus is a design model Exodus is a design model that harnesses and manifests the potential of Nigeria. Sorry. And so I personally have experienced the broken truth of this country. I have cried, I have been frustrated, I've been angry, but then I took a stance as an architect and a stance as a designer, and I said that I was going to see through the lens of my imagination. And through there, I realized that anything I conceive in my mind was possible, but I had to fortify that with my mind, my body, my soul, my integrity, my honesty, my patience and compassion, and most of all, my willpower. And from there, I feel that we can design and build a new model for Nigeria. And so I ask again, I ask again, how do you see? Thank you.